I often get the opportunity to fill in and facilitate group discussions at this local senior living facility. And usually the topics are big theological questions or debates, or sometimes they're heavy biblical narratives and stories and dissecting these ancient texts. But this last month, I got to facilitate a conversation around awe and wonder. Something that we experience as human beings, but not something that we often spend time talking about with one another. And we gleaned wisdom from this song that's found in the Old Testament of David. And David is looking upon the night sky and writes this. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, what are human beings that you are mindful of them? Mortals that you care for them. And we dove into the conversation about awe and wonder, about how we experience awe and wonder in these inexplicable ways, such as stars in the night sky, or powdered snow on mountaintops, or looking out into the ocean, or childbirth and holding a fresh newborn baby. We talked about all the ways that we experience the joys of awe and wonder. And then the conversation also took another turn that awe and wonder is not only experiencing the joy and celebrations of life, but sometimes the unexplainable grief, the inconceivable realities of suffering that we face. And we turned to Genesis, which is the very first book in the Old Testament, the book of the Bible. And it's this heavy, lonesome, isolating story. Yet Jacob wakes up from this dream and says, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not even know it. And these people living in their 8th and 9th decade of life began opening up about some truly devastating, unimaginable sufferings that they've lived through in their lifetime. Of cancer, of diagnosis, losing a child, losing a grandchild, losing a spouse, losing everything that they had. And yet I was in awe watching them share their stories with me, facilitating this group discussion, that they were able to be so courageous in their vulnerability, that they were able to stay seated at this table and engage in faithful conversations after enduring such a life, that they've held space for the awe and wonders of beauty in life. And they also hold the space for the awes and wonders of tragedy that they've been unable to explain throughout their lifetime. I came prepared to teach about awe and wonder, and yet instead I encountered it. Sitting with these people in their 80s and their 90s, I listened as they shared these stories of grief, loss, and resilience, childbirth, miracles, child loss, friendship, heartbreak, and joy. All that comes with our human experiences. And the room held this sort of wisdom that can only be earned through decades of living. And what struck me most was not the absence of suffering, but the way that wonder had somehow survived alongside it. Their stories carried this paradox of a life that is both very fragile and resilient, both painful yet beautiful. I entered this room with all the materials and discussion questions, and yet I left feeling like a student, grateful to have been invited into a space so sacred. Sometimes awe is not found in grand vistas or extraordinary events. Sometimes it appears simply in a circle of people who've lived long enough to recognize grace when it passes through the room. May you enter into spaces this week, maybe feeling like the facilitator, the leader, or the teacher, but recognizing that indeed we are all students in this journey of life. May you step into spaces recognizing and naming them as sacred, knowing that God is alongside you in both the awe, the wonder, the grief, and the joy. May you go out into the rest of the world, sharing your stories of awe and wonder, listening to the stories of awe and wonder from others, recognizing we are all on this journey of life together. And truly, we need each other to survive it. Amen. Friends, Between is about you. We believe here at Between that the most sacred church on earth is the space between people. So we invite you to go with God's love and create the church between.